Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is David, this is David K Reacts, and here I ramble with articulation, I hope, about a variety of music, audio and visual elements that I pull out of the videos that I watch. And today I am going to be watching Mr. Geoff Castellucci performing Bill Withers' extraordinary Ain't No Sunshine. An absolutely magnificent song, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Geoff does with it. Additionally, for the analysis portion of this video, I will once again be welcoming to the channel Angie Woollard of confessionsofaChordJunkie.com. She will be joining me after I have reacted. She can hear me right now. She is listening to my reaction. She can't see it just because of the way that we have our tech set up. This is the easiest way for me to record everything. But she can hear everything that I am saying, and will probably be hearing me gasp and laugh and whatever else comes with this song. I don't know. Yeah, Ain't No Sunshine, absolutely wonderful piece of music. It was released in 1971 by Bill Withers as part of his debut album, Just As I Am, and immediate success. I think I read it was actually intended to be the B-side, but it was significantly more successful than, I think it was Harlem it was meant to be the B-side for, and this was the way bigger success of a song. It got to number 6 on the US R&B chart. It reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. And actually, just this year, 2024, the Library of Congress added it to the National Recording Registry on the grounds of being, quote, culturally, historically, and or aesthetically significant, which I totally understand. I think this is one of those songs I feel like when you hear it, you know you're hearing it, even if you don't really, you know, you couldn't say who it was or you don't know the lyrics, but you recognize the song. When I started just looking for some interesting facts, I just kept writing because there's so much cool stuff about this. For a start, it's gold in Germany, it's platinum in 3 countries, it's multi-platinum in 5, including 4 times platinum in the US. It's actually platinum streaming in Greece. Like, this is a very, very successful song we're talking about here. It was inspired by the 1962 film Days of Wine and Roses, specifically Lee Remick and Jack Lemmon's characters, who I haven't seen the film, so I'm taking this from Wikipedia, but they were alcoholics, and I guess they went back to it, and Bill's quoted as having said, sometimes you miss things that weren't particularly good for you, and in addition to that, he goes on to say, probably something else that happened in my life that I'm not aware of. When he wrote this, he was a factory worker making bathrooms for Boeing 747s, and he wrote this song, and the record company actually, when it was so successful, presented him with a golden toilet seat, and I love that so much. Of all the crazy things, those cute moments of recognition of this is where you came from, I think are absolutely adorable, and I love that the record company did that. The other thing I really liked about that, because he was a factory worker, you know, he, I think, didn't consider himself to be as musically talented as obviously he is, and he wrote I Know 26 times in for the 3rd verse, and if I'm reading what was said correctly, it was kind of a placeholder for future lyrics that were going to be put into that verse, and then a bunch of other musicians said, no, that's great, leave it like that. He says, I was a factory worker puttering around, so when they said leave it like that, I left it. And it was, you know, I mean, that's got, I do, when somebody says I know, I will sometimes catch myself going, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, just in a response. It's ingrained into me. I mean, what an extraordinary thing. It's, we talk about repetition as not necessarily being a great thing in some songs, but in other songs, it's exactly what that song needs. And that I know verse is mind-blowing in the fact that it says the same thing 26 times and we love it. Great, great work. All that to say, fantastic song. Like I said, can't wait to see what Geoff does with it. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. Angie and I were originally going to record this when I did the last reaction with her for The Dragonborn Comes, and unfortunately I just ran out of time on that day and I couldn't do it, so I've been itching to get at this one, so very excited to be doing it now. I think that's about all I have to say on the matter, so I will say welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. If it is, the way this works, I'm going to watch it through from beginning to end, commenting and emoting over the top of it. I will then go back and watch it a second time, this time pausing, interrupting, offering what commentary and analysis I feel I can based on what I've just seen and heard and the foreknowledge of having seen it once before. Please do like the video, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and if you would care to donate to support the channel, you can do so by going to buymeacoffee.com/DavidKReacts, where you can can donate any amount you would like to patreon.com/DavidKReacts, where there are 2 donation levels, both just geared towards supporting the channel. You'll also get access to my Discord and your name in my Patreon credits at the end of each video. Or you could just leave a super thanks here on YouTube. Any of those very gratefully received, but absolutely no pressure at all. And that's about it. So without any further delay, let's bring up the screen. And this is Mr. Geoff Castellucci performing Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine. Oh, I like the choice to see all 4 and then have a soul Geoff. Oh, this humming.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
Oh.
It's warm when she's away.
The humming chorus to the solo piano note is extraordinary.
When she's gone, and this house just ain't no home anytime she goes away.
Wow. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yes, Geoff.
Anytime she goes away.
Ooh, interesting post-processing too. I like this. Ooh, we're playing with the form as well. Oh, this is so good.
I wonder if she's gonna stay.
Woo! Hello.
Oh, she's always gone too long.
Ooh.
She goes away.
This is so much! It's all so good! What is happening? I love... Oh, good lord. I love how he's singing... I'm going to try and get this out. He's singing all over the place, and he's also kind of teleporting around the screen. Oh. Geoff. What is this majesty? There's the gramophone, of course. These cut-off words all over the place. It's so cool. Wow! That is so good! What's he got to say? Haunting, pensive music. Accurate. Oh, and as usual, a gorgeous album cover. I love the kind of weathered look of that image too. Damn, Geoff! That was a lot. Angie told me she was going to have a lot to say about this one, and now I know why. Good lord! That was extraordinary. There is so much going on in this. It's weird. At parts, it almost felt like Geoff goes very slightly R&B. It was such a shift up from... what am I trying to say? I feel like that was maybe the most different I've heard him do something. Goodness. Wow. My mind is kind of slightly shattered right now, just trying to figure out everything I just saw. It was also good. Wow. It's great because, and I say this so often about Geoff and voice play, so much tribute to the original, so clearly his own as well, and this one more so than most. Goodness. Well, the convenient thing is it takes me and Angie a few minutes to set up, so I'm going to take that time to reassemble my brain, and through the magic of editing, it's going to seem like absolutely nothing to you folks, because that's how awesome editing is. So we're going to cut here, and when I come back, I will be here with Angie, ready to go for the analysis section of this video. See you in a second. And just like that, Angie's here. Angie, hello, welcome back to the channel.
Hi, David. Always nice to be here with you.
Well, always wonderful to have you here. So, as you heard, I just got my mind completely melted by this arrangement that we are now going to talk about.
Yep.
Holy something. That was incredible. I don't know what I was expecting from this. I can guarantee you it wasn't that.
Well, it's a bit of a departure, because I did hear you saying a few things here and there, and it definitely is a bit of a departure from the original. But that's what Geoff does. So that's
Yeah.
I'm glad that your mind was blown as I expected it to be.
Fair enough. Now, folks, just as a reminder for those who haven't seen one of Angie and I's reactions before, and if you haven't, go watch. Now that we have 3 of them, I am going to create a playlist that is specifically for these, but they'll also be in their respective playlists, of course. But I just saw this for the first time, as you saw. Angie has seen this video, I suspect, many times before, and has pre-prepared notes for this. So we come in with 2 very different perspectives on how this whole thing works, because it's, I'm going completely fresh. She's going from prior knowledge and having had the opportunity to study all of this stuff. We, it seems, based on our previous reactions, or analyses, I should say, tend to notice a lot of the same stuff, but also a few things that the other doesn't. And I tend to do more commentary on visuals, I think, just because that's kind of incorporated in what I do, whereas your focus, for the most part, is more towards the music and the harmonies and things like that. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I do like to, I obviously watch the video first, and then when I'm doing my analysis, I actually am just listening, usually with my eyes closed, and because that's the chords and the progressions and the choices in the arrangement are what speak to my heart. But I do go back and I do try to see, because I just want to understand it and study it and appreciate it from all sorts of different angles. So once I've done the chord analysis part of it, I do try to go back and see if I can marry any visual aspects to some things that caught my ears. Like, did he do this on purpose because there's going to be something in the video? Did he do something in the video because he heard this in the chord structures, or is it just a coincidence? I mean, obviously that still happens too. So you are definitely the one to go to for the video aspects, the theatrical, because you do have the theatrical background, whereas I don't.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have, especially now that you and I have been doing some of these joint analyses, I do try to go back and sort of educate myself even more on the whole production of it. So to try and appreciate it even more. So I thank you for that.
Oh, I love that. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad. I think you're having the experience I had, which is I started doing this way back when. If you go back and watch my original Wicked reaction, it's so underprepared compared to, or not under, that's the wrong phrase. It's not, there's a lot less that goes into what I see and what I pick up on compared to now. And I think that journey of, I see things very differently now. I'm much more analytical of what I'm watching unconsciously, and I don't mind it. I see cool stuff. I think that's the way to put it. I see cool stuff I didn't see, a year and 3/4 ago when I started doing this thing. So.
Oh, that's great to hear.
I feel like that's something similar to what you're doing right now, and it's fun. You get to sort of see things. You're like, oh, I really like that,
and it broadens your appreciation even more for the work of art that you're appreciating.
For sure, and I think especially with VP and Geoff, they put so much detail into their videos.
Indeed.
Starting with which this opening tableau of the 4 Geoffs is just gorgeous. This house is wonderful. I think it's such a great place for this. But I think my big thing with this is the warm tones that we
Hmm.
have going on here. It's this yellow, but it's not a cold yellow. Even the light outside the window, it's overexposed. It's kind of blown out a little bit, but there's these yellow tones going through it. And so it gives it a warmth that suits this song very, very well. I
Combined with
think
all
this
the
is,
wood in the room, and yeah.
yeah, it gives it's this weird combination of slightly rustic, but also the furniture's a little fancy. I'm getting very, very kind of, upscale country cottage vibes out of this, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and I love that. And I think one thing I'm noticing here as well, I don't know, I didn't pick up on if there is a separation with the Geoff on the left and the other three. The Geoff on the left is facing towards the right-hand side of the screen. The other three are all facing towards the left-hand side of the screen. But also the other three are closer together than he usually puts himself. Um,
Yeah, I think he usually tries to keep a bit of a separation. That could have to do with the lighting, because I know if, let's say, if you're looking at the Geoff on the far right, if the lighting is coming from his left, then his
yes.
shadow is going to spill onto sitting Geoff. So I know that that's a big factor into how far apart they're usually spaced. So it could be that he could put these three together a little bit closer because of the lighting that he used for the video.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. And every one of them is slightly differently lit because of the way that they're facing, their position, where they are, etc., etc.
Hmm.
That could well be a part of it. But it is interesting from looking at it from a contextual perspective of having these three. And I think it also shows it's a degree of confidence with the editing as well, because cutting somebody close together. Now, granted, they don't really move much from these positions,
Hmm.
but you've got a narrow margin there to play with.
And two, if you were to look at the three on the far right, if you were to look at them head on, we're kind of looking at them sort of obliquely here. If you were to look at them head on, they're actually quite far apart. If you're
Right.
thinking of like ones where he's lined up the four or five of them,
Yeah,
they are
that's
actually
true.
spaced. It's just because we're looking at it from this unique
It's the
vantage point, which is
isometrics, yeah.
also a nice shift from the usual.
Agreed. It's a very, very cool opening.
Mhm.
Speaking of very cool openings, let's start having a listen. Oh, incidentally,
Well,
just again. Oh, sorry. No. We won't do that. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say before you start playing, I have something to say about the audio. But if you were going to say something even prior to that, go ahead.
No, go for it. You do you, and then I was going to say something technical, so about us and how we do things. But you go ahead.
Oh well, you do the technical, and then this will lead into us starting the video.
Then the one thing I was just going to say, again, for anyone who hasn't watched this before, thanks to a program called SyncWatch, both Angie and I can control this video. So we will both be stopping it at various points. In my case, exclusively because something cool just happened, because I don't have the foreknowledge really at this point to stop something in advance. Angie may be stopping before something because she has something to say about what's coming up that will inform it, or maybe stopping afterwards. But anyway, just so you know how we're working, we can both control this video. We'll probably have a moment somewhere in this where we keep stopping and starting it because we're both trying to do the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, fingers crossed we don't try to do it at the same time like we always do.
Yep. Oh, it'll happen. It's fine. All right, over to you.
So what I was going to say about the very first thing that you hear in this song, even before any singing, is that opening tone. And it's
Mm,
what struck me, first of all, it did my heart good to hear that was the key of the song. It's an A. And so it just sounds like a desolate wind rushing through a
yes.
town or something like that. And it really sets the tone. You're not going to get a happy, cheerful, the Wiggles type song. This is going to be something sort of sad, desolate. You can even see by the the poses of the Geoffs, especially the one on the floor, like they just look downtrodden. And
Yeah.
the opening tone of this song, immediately I was already like, my ears perked up. It's like, this is really cool, a really really cool choice.
Yeah, totally agreed. And actually, following on from a point I made, I think I would have made this point a little in, but now that you've mentioned it, I also think it's interesting the choice to have this lovely warmth, which suits the musicality of the song, but it is slightly at odds with the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool because what is very easy to do is to freeze us out. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean like to give us this immediate understanding that what we're going to listen to is morose and or maybe that's the wrong word, but it's going to be sad subject matter, and it's all going to be, you know, this is a terrible thing, and she's not here, and we've broken up, or she's gone away, and I don't know when I'm going to see her again, or something like that. And to kind of presage all of that with the production design, and that's not what's happened here. We actually got this kind of warm, welcoming kind of vista in front of us, but with 4 people in it who clearly have a slightly sadder story to tell. And I really, really like that counterpoint.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more.
All right.
Let's hear that opening sound.
Awesome humming and sounds coming right up.
I'm going to pause it right there so that we've heard a couple of the motifs. Now we can hear it again, and I love how each note isn't hit right on the money. He slides up like you're bending a guitar string into the it's like from an E flat to an E, right up into that. And that was such an interesting stylistic choice. I think he could have hit them each on, and it would have sounded great, and it would have sounded like a blues kind of progression. But because he did that bend of the guitar string, is what it sounds like to me. It kind of adds to the bluesiness to it.
Yeah, 100% agreed. I also love the pitch that we're starting at here, the register of it, because already we're getting relatively deep, Geoff.
Right.
It's kind of the entire everything. There is there's someone a little higher up.
It starts in the lower octave, and then he octaves it with a higher one.
Yeah, exactly. And we have this lovely build that's happening here. And I think because he started that little bit lower, he can build up, which he does. Mm-hmm. But then we have that lovely thing which right where we cut off here, where because he's Geoff, he can build down despite the fact that he's already started quite deep. And so what he's actually done, while he is lower in his register, he's still got space on both ends. And so we have this lovely decompression almost of the breadth of sound in this as we go through these opening lines before he starts singing, which is such a nice choice. It would be easy to start super low and only go up, or to start a little higher up and then kind of suddenly drop in later, which is a technique he's used elsewhere.
This one is smart.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Let's go back on that one more time. Even actually, that first note, that it's got very, very much that kind of slide onset onto it.
Yeah, that's...
And I love so much that he interrupts his own phrase to come in with the song.
Mm-hmm.
It's so great. We come back in for this thing for the third time, and the assumption immediately, because I think a lot of the time with music like this, it's in 4/4. We're not in a 3/4 time. And so I think you associate the 4s immediately, and your brain goes, oh, here's number 3, we're going to get number 4. He doesn't even finish number 3, and he comes in with the vocal line. And I think that is great.
Yeah, it makes it interesting. It makes it, it propels kind of the forward motion. It doesn't let you get bored. Because, I mean, even though this is great music and you can still get bored of the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, totally. It also, I think, sets the stage for what's coming up in terms of these ain't no sun interruption. Or the anytime, but it's a much gentler way of setting up a broken word than by breaking a word. He could have done that straight off the bat, but he hasn't done that. He's just interrupted this humming. And it's such a great way to come in. I also love these lovely pedal tones that we're getting coming in underneath with the hum, just going on underneath very quietly. Yeah. I can't remember if it's a fifth or a tonic, but he's giving himself so much support. And then we have this remarkable breakaway here. And the construction of this opening is masterful.
Couldn't agree more.
Alrighty. Let's just go back a little way.
sunshine when she's gone. It's not.
I was so taken with the piano tone that he used here. It's got
Yep.
almost it's got such a ringing, because you can have so many, there's thousands of different piano tones you could get. You could have it muffled or ragtimey or whatever. This one is so bell-like. It's almost like tubular bells, the ones you hit with a hammer, tubular
Yep.
bells. And because of this tone, if you listen closely, you think you're hearing just the low note, the tonic, but this particular plugin or whatever that he's used has created a harmonic octave. So you're actually hearing octaves creating this or replicating this motif that we just heard humming Geoff's singing. This motif has actually got a ringing out harmonic octave, which I just think it's so, again, evocative of the tone that we're getting from this song.
Yeah, absolutely. And for any who are watching who aren't familiar, the idea of harmonics is that you are hearing something that isn't really there, in the sense that it is not being played on the piano, but it is there in the sense that what is probably happening is that a string is reverberating slightly higher up the piano. And it is filling out that sound a little bit. So if you're playing this note here, this note up here may also resonate slightly. And you get a little bit of sound coming out the piano from a note that isn't actually being depressed. And it's such an effective thing to be using at this point in time because it gives us this kind of ghostly sensation.
Exactly.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Somebody is not present. And so replicating that in the instrumentation is a masterstroke. I love it. I think also the other big thing for me was the lovely build up to that. I was expecting him to suddenly come in with like a small percussion set in the background where you have that boom, and it just cuts to the piano. All the other vocals drop out. We go from this, and I mentioned it, I think, as I was going through. We go from this rich harmony that he's built up over these 2.5 iterations of this this sort of ostinato we have going on here, and then all of a sudden it's all gone. We just have the piano and the melody line. And I think that's such a great move as well.
Very melancholy.
Very melancholy. And a lot of subversion of expectations going throughout this entire performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here for every single one of them.
You and me both.
Alrighty, let's jump back a few seconds.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away.
Just sounds like you're hitting that with a hammer.
Yep.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home anytime she goes away.
Two things I want to just mention real quick because I'm just a nerd like that. But on
Do
the
it.
word home, he hits a perfect fifth. Fifths are particularly pleasing. Every interval, so a perfect fifth would be like the distance between notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a scale, and Geoff has hit a fifth on the word home compared to the note that's being played on the piano. Additionally, the very end of this phrase, every time she goes away, he's singing an octave with the piano, and the piano is singing. The piano is playing an A1, and it struck me that Geoff could have easily sung that note. He could have been the bass throughout this whole this whole piece. But because it's just him and the piano, it's even more solitary. If it was him and him singing together, then he's kind of got somebody with him. But because it's just him and the piano and hitting that A1 that he could easily have hit beautifully, it's even more solitary and desolate to me. So just two things I wanted to point out there.
No, 100% true. I was going to bring up the fact that he could have sung that too. I think it's remarkable that he's chosen to do it. The amount of understanding that he has of the songs that he performs is phenomenal. And
Absolutely.
arranges for voice play, I should add. It is just the same for there. But I think this, you could imagine him just kind of being in an empty bar, just pressing keys on a piano, kind of like heavy fingered, like one finger, just kind of feeling sorry for himself. Like the way that the amount, and what we're seeing, and this is what I wanted to, I was literally about to hit pause when you did. What we're seeing here, now we have taken away only a little bit of the warmth from the scene. We still have these lovely yellows on the walls. The wood paneling is still kind of quite a warm color, but this blown out light through the windows, it's much bigger. It's taking up more of the screen. There is no yellow going through it like there was in the opening shot. And he's now entirely, well, not entirely, but overwhelmingly backlit. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's being lit from the front, or we wouldn't be able to see him at all.
Exactly.
But we didn't have, where in the opening shot, you can see on his, directions, his left sleeve, we get this streak of light down the sleeve up to the cuff. That light was on his face in the opening shots. It's not now. He's got his back to it. And so he's changed the whole tone of this into this very stark scene with just the chair. You know, I imagine if he could have taken them off the walls, he'd probably have removed these two kind of, yes. Maybe he wouldn't. I don't know. But I could see that working and being a thing and just having this very bare scene. And yet in my head, I have him in a bar with like dust everywhere and everybody's gone home. Maybe there's a bartender polishing one glass behind and him just kind of like, boom, boom. I realize I'm shaking my camera when I do that. But there's so much evocation going on in what we're seeing right now. And that's amazing. The amount he can conjure up with nothing.
The only thing that puzzles me is the song is called Ain't No Sunshine, and it's clearly super sunny out there. And obviously that was a choice that he made. He could have shot this video in a dark lit studio or a dark
Twilight
house
or something.
Yeah, and I'm each time I see this, I wonder why the juxtaposition of the lyrics and the song title essentially, and what we're seeing as the lighting in this house. And I haven't come up with an answer, but just something that I'm always a little puzzled by. I don't think it was an accident. There must be some reason for it. But
well, one possible theory, and this is just what's coming straight to mind for me, but I wonder if it's just like, because we feel like you've had a breakup, you know, you're 2 weeks into this thing, you feel like there isn't any sunshine. That's not to say that somebody's gone up there and turned the light off, right? So I wonder if what it is it's like, yes, there's sunshine, but look at where he's positioned. He's not seeing it. He's looking away from it.
Oh, brilliant. That is a great observation.
So I wonder if it's that he just doesn't see the sunshine. Because you can't turn the sun off.
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
We can't deny the sunshine.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. That's my thought.
I love it. I'm going to go with that.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take it. Okay, I want to jump back for a second and just listen to what's going on between these two, the piano and Geoff. So let's go back to about here.
She's away.
No. There we go.
Sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away.
Right. Up to this point, the piano has played 3 notes. Geoff has sung 5. Dum, dum, dum is also ain't no sunshine when she's gone, excuse me. It's all based around that 5th minor 7th tonic. Da, da, da. It just, the melody adds in the da, 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 dum. So we have our minor 3rd and our 2nd at that point in time. All the notes in this song are very geared towards creating a sad feeling.
Absolutely.
Like that's the way it was written 53 years ago. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he's just got the piano doing nothing but dum, dum, dum is emphasizing that so much, because there is nothing redeeming in the piano. There is nothing to distract. There is nothing to take away from that emotion in the slightest. Up to this point, it is literally just a gut punch of, this is the melancholy that I'm sitting in right now. Mm-hmm. And I really, really like that choice, because it would have been easy to go somewhere else with the piano as well. Just like he could have sung that A1, he could also have played gentle minor chords or something like that were a bit fuller. But keeping it in the, I think it's close to the register he's singing. If not, it is the register he's singing.
Mm-hmm.
The compression of this, we've literally heard that, like, in terms of the space on the piano, you could stretch that without even really stretching your hand apart. You could just do this gently on a piano, and you've covered the entire range of notes that we've heard him sing so far. And
Indeed,
I love how the amount of space he has to work with still because of that choice is just brilliant.
And that's a real. I've analyzed a lot of Geoff's songs, whether I've written about them or not, because I'm so fascinated by his arranging choices. So this is a very Geoff thing to do, is to start off with the background vocals, and then to have either the soloist sing with absolutely no accompaniment, or to have it like super bare bones. Like sometimes it's just one instrument holding a tonic, something. I'm trying to think of other examples, like for, well, I won't get into other examples because I know you haven't watched them all, but so this is a very Geoff thing to do, is sing the solo over something super bare bones, because he knows then that he's got somewhere to build to. So he's, in my opinion, an expert at the push and pull of an arrangement. You kind of ebb and flow. You think it's going to build, and then it pulls back. So this is, I don't want to say textbook Geoff, because that makes it sound formulaic, and it's not. But it is how he starts a lot of his arrangements, and it's just because it's so effective.
Yeah, 100%. He knows what works, and he's very, very good at employing it. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay, carrying on from more or less where we were.
There ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home anytime she goes away.
And that build up there too. He's filled that out by holding those chords on. Finally, it's the first time we've had a dum 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 dum, whatever the notes are that he plays at that point. Hang on for the first time, and then what he's actually got is this reverse effect. So what I think he's done is he's played the chord that he's leading into, reversed it so that it comes in from the faded out section, and it's like a reverse cymbal sound. You get that coming in. And it's just such an effective way of leading into whatever is coming next, because we're taking nothing more. It's not like we suddenly bring in a dum ba dum ba dum ba kind of thing coming in on the drums or something. He doesn't do that. He uses what he's using already, which is the piano. He just does something different with it. And I think it also goes to show there's a significant amount of post-processing in this that he has used purely for effect. It's not being used to fix anything.
Right.
None of that nonsense. He's using it because it enhances the effect that he's creating with this song.
Yeah.
And I think, let me just run back like 2 seconds and you'll hear this piano. And just like it did with that sort of windy effect going into the piano section, it cuts off right as everybody else comes in. And then we get the percussion.
Yeah, and it's simple percussion too.
Yeah. And he hasn't set anything up by going, here's percussion coming now, we're going to the next section. No, none of that. Yeah, he's just used what he's got and then cuts. And it's very abrupt, I think. And that's an interesting choice.
The transition between the intro and this section?
Yeah, you don't get a sense that anything is holding on. There's a stop and an immediate pickup by something different, which is exactly what happened. Well, no, it's not quite exactly what happened going into him, because we had a no sunshine when she's, and that's where the cut happened that time, I think. This time, it's literally at the end of the section. There's nothing to feed into the next section at all. Well, and I love that.
Yeah, it adds to the excitement. Even though it's a slowish, sad song, you still have to have musical excitement to make you want to listen to it further. And having the percussion and the next section kind of start like that, kind of creates that. It's like, oh, what's next now? It's like, oh, there's it doesn't draw it out, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And pacing in music does not mean anything to do with tempo.
Right.
Tempo is an entirely different thing. You could pick up the pacing in a song simply by going from a boom, cha, boom, cha. You turn that into boom, cha, boom, cha. It immediately feels pacier. That's not what's happening here, quite. he's doing it by completely changing the sound that's created, but the pacing is being picked up.
Yeah,
And I think that it's just, brilliant.
Pacing can also be picked up if you're kind of have an ascending chord progression that
Yes.
also creates some excitement and speaks to pacing as you were just demonstrating.
Yeah. And in this case, I think by filling out, not only by bringing 4 hymns back in again, but also adding percussion to it as well. We've evolved somewhere from where we were before. And so it naturally picks everything up a little bit. Great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One more time on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here also we have another example of a cut-off lyric. Anytime. And we don't finish that thought.
Right.
Yeah. There's so much cool stuff in this.
we could talk, literally, I could talk about the song, I bet, for 5 hours. I won't.
Yes.
But I could.
Well, we have 2 before the software cuts me off. So.
Okay. I'll just start talking faster.
Okay, what just happened here? About 9 different things is the answer to that. But
enlighten us all, please.
Well, firstly, the obvious one is this.
Yes.
That is so. Yes, we've had cut off words, but we haven't had that kind of. And I think this is produced. Let me go back and listen to that one more time. No, it's not, is it?
No, he sings.
He's made it sound like it is, but there's a tiny glottal there. It's very small, and I didn't pick up on it when I was going through the reaction. But that is him singing.
Yes,
it's control.
It's interesting to say, about 9 things happened, because I've heard the song so much. I think that is how the song is supposed to go. You're like, wait, what happened there? It's like, I don't know what happened. Oh, the time. Yeah, no, that's. So
I mean, that's a huge change there.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear this from your perspective. I'm sure you'll pick up a lot of stuff that I'm just taking for granted now.
For sure. But no, that's an extraordinary change. And yes, we've cut words off, but we've never then repeated anything from them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's... And does he sing the M even? No, it's just...
the word.
Yes, but it's just Yes. It's a single vowel sound that he's repeating. He hasn't finished any time. He cuts it in the middle of the word, repeats it, then finishes it. Mm-hmm. It's such a different
more
technique.
Percussion.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the kind of thing that made me say there's almost a very, very slight undertone of R&B Geoff coming in, because he's using techniques that could be in produced music and maybe R&B is not quite the right thing. It's the what came into my head for some reason, but he's using what could be post-production techniques. But now that I listen back, yes, you're right. He is singing it.
Absolutely.
The control to sing those 3 so cleanly that it sounds post-produced is brilliant. But he is absolutely singing it. I'm sure of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. On top of that, we have this lovely build-up of the piano underneath. It's not playing much more, but simply holding those notes on. The dum... What is it? Dum, dum... Oops. I'm pressing buttons. Go away, come back. There we go. Sorry, messing with screens on my end. The holding on of that, it's giving a little bit more harmonic fullness to it when combined with all of the Geoffs.
Yeah.
It's a little bit higher. We've got a lot of that. And then there was one more thing. Right. And then it's not just one Geoff that then does the "she goes away." There's 2 there.
Right.
I think singing in octaves. Did I hear octaves, or is he singing in unison with himself?
I'd have to hear it
so
again.
much. I'm not. Yeah. Yeah, singing in octaves with himself, I think, because we've got the really breathy, aspirate, low Geoff, and then a slightly cleaner one, the octave above, that's just behind him in the arrangement. So we've got this lovely full sound that's coming out that's enhanced, but the focus is still on, presumably, as I call him, Prime Geoff, the one that we're seeing in the camera at that point in the chair, I'm assuming is the one who is supposed to be singing that really low note. Yes. And it's just the reinforcement surrounding that is so beautiful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, lovely. And then, of course, there's the percussion. And the percussion, I think, the choice to do it the way he's done it, you said it before, it's sparse. It's not, he's not hitting us with something crazy. It's literally just this simple bass, clap, bass. And it doesn't need to be anything more than that, especially at this point in the song. It's
Yeah,
just,
and the fact that when you're illustrating before about pacing, and you kind of added a little hi-hat in between, it is just the stomp, clap, stomp,
mm-hmm.
clap. It's so like there's nothing on the eighth note of that. So even
Right.
that, I'm just trying to think. I don't think it even it keeps it bare bones.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. He's doing nothing more at any point in this song than he needs to serve his arrangement of it.
Yeah.
And the tone that he's trying to create. It's great.
Anytime she goes away. I know.
Again, that ain't no sun in the background. I love how he does that pulled back this time. It's not at the forefront. He does it as a separate thing. And it's so impactful. I love the kind of sense of echo of it, that it's not right up there with us, but also the fact that it's still reinforcing what's going on. Lovely, lovely choice for that. And then also, I noticed his pronunciation of the "she goes away." There's a little "y" on the end of it. Very, very slight.
Away,
But it
yeah.
just gives us a little bit. I'm exaggerating here. Let me
Yeah.
find it. I'm exaggerating it, but it just gives us a tiny little launch, and it's very small. But we're not settling down in that bottom note. We're going back somewhere else, and I think that really feeds into that. Where is it? No.
She goes away.
Not too far. Yeah. No.
Anytime she goes away.
It's a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a "y." It's an a. It's a diphthong onto almost. It's a diphthong from an a onto a schwa. The sound in the English language. There's nothing much more than that. But it's just the change at the end there. He doesn't just a.
As a
There's
barber
something more
shopper,
to it.
yeah. As a barber shopper, I'm acutely aware of turning diphthongs in songs, because that's what we do. And of course,
Right.
that's the difference between barbershop music and pop music, because it's not always necessary to turn them as extreme as you would in barbershop craft. But Geoff, when he chooses to, does his diction and turning diphthongs is, I know it's important to him, and he does it where it serves the song. So clearly here, as you said, he used it as like a springboard to the next phrase.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. Even that re-entry too, so much more kind of like, it's like they've come back in reinvigorated. And I don't know, they may be just the same volume they were before, I'm not sure, but it just, because we've gone there, there ain't no sun, it's kind of, it gives you a bit more of a like, oh, let's smarten up and listen kind of thing.
Were you going to pause it there too?
I was.
Okay, so I heard you talking about, I know that you looked up the song, you had some history on it, and you know that Bill Withers said, I know, 26 times. Geoff,
yes.
Throughout so he's got a little section here where it's only, I wrote it down, 9 times.
Right.
As a little taster, I think. And then later in the song, as you know, there's many more. So Geoff, in total, says, I know 38 times.
Oh, interesting.
But what I find interesting is it doesn't sound as repetitive as Bill Withers' use of it, because Geoff instead says, I know, and I know. Every once in a while, there's a bunch of ands in there. And so that, I can see both ways of doing it. Bill Withers, I know that he initially did it as a placeholder, but then it became an integral part of the song. That's part of the song that most people know, I think. And that evokes his message. For Geoff's, it almost sounds like he's saying, I know, and I know. Like it's almost like he's having a conversation with himself, and he's trying to convince
Yes.
himself of something or something. And he's like, I know. And then his subconscious has told him another thing. Okay, and I know that, and I know. I just find it was just a simple. He probably only did it because he needed an extra syllable to fill out the phrase. But I've kind of chosen to internalize it as just a neat way to tell the story in a little bit
Yeah.
more of a internal struggle. So
Yes.
that's what I had to say about that.
Well, and I'm going to repeat an anecdote I think I've told on the channel before, which was when Hugh Jackman was doing Oklahoma in Australia, and it was filmed. And he was directed every time he came out to sing. I think it was, I want to say, Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. And he said, every time you sing that, it has to mean something different. Because you don't say something twice in real life. Because singing in musical theatre is, emotions are so heightened I can't speak them anymore. I have to sing. But you are effectively still speaking and having a conversation and telling a story. And the idea being that if you say something multiple times, every time you say, you don't say, oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful morning. You wouldn't do that in real life. It would be, oh, what a beautiful morning. Yeah, what a beautiful morning. Like there's a different intention between every time you say something. Unless I guess you're repeating yourself because somebody hasn't heard you. But he was told that. And what I think is so key here is I can hear that, and you've obviously heard it because of everything you just said. You can hear that in the way that Geoff is saying all of these I knows. There is intention behind them. And you're right. I think that and adds a lot because it does become conversation. It's not just him saying I know over and over again. It's him saying I know this and this. There's a lot of unfinished sentences. I know this and I know this. I know this, I know this, I know this, and I know this. And it gives it that dialogue, almost with himself, almost with the audience, whatever it happens to be. But there's story in this that I agree, I'm inclined to say I don't hear in the original. Certainly not as much.
Yes, I agree.
But that's interesting. So he sings it 12 more times throughout the whole thing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the next section where he says it, where it's in multiple phrases. Here it's just a little teaser.
Oh, he says it 38 times where the 26 is, not 38 times total.
38 times total, including this section.
Including the 9 we just... Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Let's just jump back on this.
Oh, I had my hand hovering over that pause button.
Multiple things once again. I love the fact that, and this is just slightly comical to me, but I love it, that we have all 4 Jeffs doing the hand singing.
Oh, yes.
Simultaneously in that previous scene. It's fun. It's obviously you see it, but having all 4 of them simultaneously, just unconsciously doing this hand, it's kind of great.
It's throughout the song too.
Yeah. One thing I didn't mention is I like the fact that he's played with the form of the song a little by bringing the I know in early. Like it doesn't normally happen there if you listen to the original. That's not where this comes in. It comes in later. It comes in verse 3, as I was saying earlier. To have it in early, that caught me by surprise, and I like it because it means if you're coming to this knowing the original, you're not just listening to a straight cover, which obviously we're not. We know that by now.
Right.
But that changes a different thing up. We haven't just changed up cutting some songs or giving it a post-produced sound. We've also changed the form of the song itself a little bit. And I
while
really,
staying
really like
true.
that.
Yeah, while staying true to the song.
And now notice that our adjustment to the next section is even more abrupt because we have that bum from the string, like this plucked string sound that just comes in out of nowhere. We haven't had strings up to this point, unless I missed something. And then all of a sudden you get that bum up at the top, very out of nowhere, and boom, we're in the next section. And so he's evolving even those transitions. And it's a small thing, but it's so enhanced from where it was before and so much more kind of in your face a little bit. Yeah, very, very cool. You were saying to say something.
I was going to say something about this section coming up. He's
Mhm.
introduced some sound effects now. We've got static. We've got a really loud, prominent clock ticking, and to me,
Right.
it is so evocative. Like if you've ever been, I'm sure everybody's been up in the middle of the night, and everything just seems more. You're discombobulated, and especially if you're in what I assume this character's mental state might be of, she's gone, whatever that she is or whatever the circumstances are. I'm picturing now kind of like a descent into, I don't want to say madness because that's a little bit over dramatic, but like a descent into yeah,
Grief.
just discombobulated. Just everything seems weird and more severe in the middle of the night. So that's the real feeling I got. Like I felt really uncomfortable when I started
Mm.
hearing the static and the ticking clock and seeing his demeanor now as he's going to walk throughout the house. Even this pose that he's got right here, like he just looks like he doesn't know what to do. And
Yeah.
so
Defeated.
defeated, that's a great word. So his choice of just pure sound effects, they're not musical, there's a clock ticking and the static, is just, it heightens the emotion of this section of the song for me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely agreed. I think I'm remembering, I'll hear it again, but I'm remembering from the first time through, and I remember thinking there was a lot more happening here in terms of sound. And
It's
it is,
almost,
you're
yeah,
absolutely right.
it's almost like you start hallucinating, like I don't know. I've been up in the middle of the night and everything just seems weird. That's what this sounds like to me.
It does. And I've had those situations where, somebody wherever I am is already asleep and I'm coming to bed later and you creep up the stairs and every creak, everything is so loud.
Amplified,
And
yes.
it's not really, but there's
Right.
nothing else to distract you.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, that sense of there's already less noise because somebody is now not here. And then to have everything be quieter still. Yeah. Lovely. It is. It's great. So
Hmm.
let's just jump back 2 seconds to hear this transition and we'll go on in.
I wonder this time where she's gone. I wonder if she's gonna stay. Ain't no sunshine.
The bass in this is fascinating to me. One, because Jeffs, which is
Hmm.
always delightful to listen
It's
to.
neat that you
But
called
it's
you made that into a verb. I'm going to use that from now on.
I'm sticking with it.
Yeah.
But also there's that. So I think the static that you're referring to there is also it's a little bit of distortion on the bass sound that he's
Different
got going on
static.
there.
I was referring to, it's like literally radio static.
Oh,
Or
okay. Oh, we just had.
no, it's more the static if you were playing a record, an LP, and then it gets to the end of the
Oh, I
song.
see.
That
No,
kind of
I know. I see
static.
what you're hearing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. But then we also had, like, he's added distortion to that bass sound that we have
Yes.
going on there. Like, it's now sounding, this music is now sounding slightly more produced. And I actually really love that this is the direction he's going, and we've taken it away from this sense now. This is not a sound you could create just standing in a bar hitting a note on a piano. This isn't even a
Right.
sound you could make with a bass guitar around your neck playing notes. It would have to be plugged in, and it would have to
With
be
a
going
pedal
through
or
some
something.
sort of very mild distortion pedal.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Somebody who knows more about pedals than I do could probably say exactly what type of pedal that is. My knowledge is very limited. Was in a band for 2.5 years, but I kind of didn't really use a lot of that sort of stuff in the process. I used a distortion pedal, and that was it. And it was very distorted. But I love that sound. And then it, like, everything, it's just moved to a slightly more, like, okay, here's what it is. I've come across, I think I know what I want to try and say. It's less acoustic. It's
Yes.
more plugged in now.
Yeah.
And I love that is the evolution he's going through in this song. Even the makes it sound more plugged in. But now
Yeah.
it really is.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I love
And
that. I think that's such an interesting move.
that distortion on that bass too is one thing that really caught my ear, and just
Mm.
it's noise, right? The clock, the static, the distortion, it's all noise, and it's almost like there's noise in his head and he's trying to sing through it, but there's all this noise. It's just, yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Let me go back on that for a second.
He's gone.
Also notice the percussion. It's now just dum, 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 and that's it, except for that clock.
The clock, yeah.
That tick. The tick is now the percussion almost, with the exception of those bass hits that just happen on the first beat of the bar, every bar. And that's all they... Oddly enough, it's almost like they are doing the timekeeping. And the clock is actually performing a more involved function than that.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yeah, that's a cool thought.
I'm sorry, folks. You just experienced a bit of a hard cut. I learned a lesson about internet browsers and how much space they can, or how much memory they have to store today. So anyway, the recording stopped because I ran out of space on my browser, so we have restarted again, and we're just going to carry on where we left off. So I just made the point about the clock feeling more like the percussion and the bass drum feeling more like the timekeeper, and if all goes to plan, that was all captured. And on we go from there. I had finished making points. Did you want to say anything about where I'd stopped, or should we carry on?
I can't remember where we are, so let's just carry on and...
Jump back a few seconds and go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I wonder if she's gonna stay. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
Yes, this was my next stopping point.
I was going down to the pause button myself. Go for it.
Oh, I can't wait to see what you have to say. The background vocals here, they have an extra pulse on "Gone." Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and it almost sounds like he's pleading. He's so despondent. It's like a cry out to me, and I thought that was an interesting choice to have that extra pulse on the word "gone," to evoke, to further perpetuate this emotion that he's instilling in this video.
Yeah, 100%. The thing I wanted to jump on, which I think kind of, this doesn't play to the emotion, but it plays, because that, as you say, it gives it an extra pulse and is another way of keeping the pace up. And I think something else that does some pacing work here is you have that lovely down the bottom there, and then how much higher the harmony comes in.
Yes.
He's not coming in at that register that he started the song. He's coming in quite high up now. And that difference too, it's another way of kind of reawakening and reinvigorating the music.
Absolutely.
And I think what's so interesting is he stops this being too dolorous by consistently finding ways of having a momentary uplift, be it in pacing, be it in harmony, being it in general musicality. So whatever it happens to be, he's always moving in this. The song is always moving in some way. And I think that's a really, really smart move for something that, the subject matter is fairly heavy, but the song doesn't feel it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Oh, she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away.
That, the way that he played with the melody on "Anytime," like, I'm massively exaggerating that, but it's this kind of, it's so incomplete musically, even before it gets cut off by the woodblock, which again is where every time he does one of these transitions, it's a more abrupt finish. That really sort of quality of the woodblock.
Yeah, it's almost like a remix or something where you kind of take a little snippet from here, snippet from here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That is exactly where my brain is. I just hadn't figured out how to verbalize it yet, but you're totally right. But yeah, just listen to this time.
She goes away. Oops. She's always gone too long. Anytime.
Time.
Yes. He doesn't even finish the word properly.
Yeah, it's sort of, it would go into a wail if he carried it on any longer, but it's got this cry, very cry tone to the voice there, which adds to the sadness of it. But then, I again, these abrupt changes almost give a levity to it. It's not, this is the wrong word for it, it's almost comical. It's not. It's serious enough that it doesn't go that far, but there's anytime, and we've just cut off and we go somewhere else. There's a gentle humor in the way that he does that and the way that he elevates it every time. It's chasing itself and getting bigger and bigger every single time. It's a really, really interesting choice.
I could see that. Conversely, you could think of it a number of different ways, depending. Obviously, us as the viewer, us as the listener, we bring our own experience into the interpretation of a piece of music, where you see comical, though maybe not in the sense that Webster's would define that word, but I see what you're going for. I see it as sort of, I don't know why I keep fixating on this sort of descent into madness. That was the first thing that hit me when I watched and heard this song for the first time. Everybody's got sort of a different interpretation, but that's kind of what I'm seeing. And that wood block, it's so stark, it's so abrupt, it cuts him off mid sentence, and it's almost like he's being like beaten down even further. And it's so quick and emphatic, and it's I guess that's where I see that going. So it's interesting to see the different perspectives of interpretation of both the music of it and the video.
And I think there's a very small lean in my thought towards where you are as well, because I would say comedy in the form of Greek comedy, not comedy that we understand it now.
Like comedy tragedy.
And I think, yes, and you saying that made me coalesce that thought properly. And I think it is, Greek comedy isn't you sit around there raucously laughing.
Yes.
There is an element of tragedy to Greek comedy.
Yes.
It's just how it plays out is different to a tragedy. And I think that's what I'm getting here is that kind of that vibe rather than, it's not a stand-up comedian in the room. It's something that's got a lot of seriousness to it.
Right.
But it has these moments that just pick it up here and there.
Yes.
But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from rather as well. Is it gives a lot of that kind of incompleteness and uncertainty, and yeah, it's really cool. I love what he's done with this.
Oh, she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away. I know.
Again, this difference of hang on. That was going to be difficult to look at for 30 seconds.
Fuzzy,
my eyes were
fuzzy, blurry.
Yeah, it's like I can't resolve this image. Anytime she goes away, everything's really down there, and then I know, way up high. Again, this same thing, but this time done in the complete reverse of what he just did. The chorus and solo Geoff as well have that depth, and then solo Geoff comes in high for the I knows. It's like the complete reverse of what we just had. I love that. I also like that as we get to this section, and this maybe feeds into your descent into madness concept that you're working with here, the room is busier now. Like we're now everything is more cluttered, maybe as his mind is getting and I say this, the character's mind is kind of getting more
yes,
it's kind of being there's more wood, but we've now got door handles, we've got machinery on the left hand side, at clear odds we have this beautiful copper receptacle up on the wall, and then a Keurig and a microwave. Like everything, there's things a little out of place now almost, which is kind of cool. And then what's going on behind it? We've got depth, which we didn't have before. The depth before was like 2 feet behind us. Now he has a whole room behind him. These doorways kind of leading through to production design on this, and the location, the choice of where to film each shot, spot on. I love it.
I couldn't agree more. I was going to pause again. We're hovering our fingers over the pause button at the same time. Coming into this section, you'll notice that the background vocals, they don't, the chords don't, there's a lot of white space is what I'm trying to say in the background vocals. And it's almost like he's becoming more disjointed, more, that goes along too with the visual that we're going to be seeing here. The visual starts blurry and then it comes into focus. And then we get Geoff over here, and then Geoff's on the counter. Like it's just further. I felt for this guy, he's going
Yeah,
through something, and this just mental anguish. The it's so well married between the video and the audio here. Just really
absolutely.
struck me with the background vocals being so not quite staccato, which is where it's like tuk, tuk. It's very, there's
Yeah,
no ring out of the note is what staccato means. So it's not quite that, but there's no bleeding of the note from one to the next. It's very disjointed.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's almost like
absolutely.
his support system's leaving him.
Yeah, it's interesting because we had the negative space in the shot with him on the chair with the
Hmm.
empty walls and all that kind of stuff, and now we don't. We have stuff, but now it's in some of the vocals as well. Like it's there's always emptiness somewhere in this,
Right.
and
And
I think that's so smart.
and this pose that he's in right here, I always found that very vulnerable. They teach you in body language. If you sit with your arms crossed, you're closing off yourself, and if you're talking to somebody with your arms open or something like that, you're creating some vulnerability. So to me, this opening shot of this next scene kind of adds to that. He's feeling so vulnerable in these shots, and that combined with the music, it's just gorgeous storytelling.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's a different take on that sort of. He had I can't really, but he had one arm up and one arm across when he was in the rounded doorway earlier,
Right.
and now it's just kind of he's just slumped against it almost. Um, yeah, there's some really. Oh my goodness, you really could talk about this for 5 hours. You're
Yeah, I told you.
right.
She goes away anytime.
Listen for the disjointedness.
I know, 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 and I know, I know, I know.
Oof, my God, it's hard that section. What I think fascinates me so much about it is he's traveling. I
Yeah,
know, I 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 know. He's all over the place.
but
Which
also
again,
so is visual, Geoff.
yes, but once again, that descent into madness thing, and it really, it's this. What's even happening here? Yeah, I buy. The more we go through this, the more I buy into that as a logic as well.
Yeah,
And yeah, this kind of the movement of visual Geoff around is so unsettled. We don't have the satisfaction of seeing him get to from point A to point B. He just is,
right.
and
As
it's
you are in
partly
your
passage of
mind.
yeah, absolutely. And it's partly passage of time. Yes,
Hmm.
okay, he was over here 5 minutes ago. Now he's over here, but
Hmm.
we never even see a step. I don't think he
I
just
don't think
goes from
so.
place to place, which
Yeah,
makes it feel more disjointed.
yeah,
And then yes,
um,
as you were saying, the harmony as well, having
yeah.
those gaps.
And here we've got the majority of his I knows, and the interjection. Even not speaking to story now, just thinking strictly of how does it how does it sound? The interjection of the ands in here is just
Mm.
such a nice. It lines up so nicely with the rhythm. It in Bill Withers, I have to admit that the I know section, um, it doesn't quite. I don't find it terribly enjoyable to listen to. But this one, it seems to make more sense because of the and. I don't know if it lines up a little bit better on the measures or something like that. But I really like how he's treated the rhythm of all these I knows.
I want to listen for melisma now, which, for those who don't know, is where you sing the same syllable on multiple notes. So, and I know, I know, I know, I know that oh is a melisma. And I'm wondering how much he's doing that, or whether he's using. I wasn't paying attention to that at all. I know I want to go back and listen. I'm wondering if he's using the and to cut some of that out.
I bet you're right. I'm
Um,
just playing it in my mind right now, and I can't. I mean, my mind could be faulty because I am very old. But
oh, rubbish.
I think I can't think of any spot where he's got one syllable multiple notes. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Let's listen and see.
Well, let's go back and find. And there's something else I wanted to pick up on, and I can't remember what it was. So.
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
Oh no, it is.
I know, 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 and I know, I know, I know, I know.
You know what
There's
it
one
is?
there.
Yeah, there's a few, but they feel more like passing notes than they do a deliberate part of the no. It feels
Yeah.
more like he's using it to get to, especially because he uses them between sections as well. Here, I'm going to be super nerdy for a second.
I know, I know, I know.
I know, I know, I know. Just there. It's a little bit of a launching pad in that case.
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
Same again.
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
And there, I know. It's a travel down. He's using it to get down to the at the bottom. I know. And so I think he uses it to move maybe more than the original does. I don't know. This is the kind of thing I could literally spend half an hour just studying this to figure out what the purpose is of each section, and I don't
You
want to
and
do
me
that
both.
'cause, we've got to get somewhere with this video, but
Yeah.
this is a fascinating study, I think. This more than I think almost anything I've heard. This is a section I'd love to have a conversation with Geoff about and actually talk to him about what thought process was going. How did you design every element of this section? Because it's just so extraordinary what he's doing. One more time back, just because there's something in the instrumentation I wanted to comment on.
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
Those little
The dinks, yeah.
bum. I can't decide if it's strings or if it's like an electric piano or something. I can't hear it quite clearly enough. But it's just such it's way back here. But it's just a tiny, tiny little something that adds to the texture.
I will bet that is strings with some sort of chorus effect on it. What do you call it? Pizzicato strings. Because with my knowledge of what's to come, there is a string section coming up, and I bet he would have kept the same instrumentation just for cohesion.
Yeah,
to
that
make
makes
it
sense.
all blending and nice.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I love that. It's so small. You could leave it out and almost not notice the difference, but it just fleshes everything out a little bit. I love that.
No, I know, 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 and I know, 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 and I know, I know, I know. Oh, you ought to leave a young thing alone, but ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
Woo! I mean, wow. The amount of I love the subtle addition of the harmony to the I knows to the point where it almost doesn't sound like they're singing I know, except you can just hear that they are. That's so nice, and it just fills out everything that's going on there. And then he just starts going off on his own thing when he starts adding in all these kind of riff embellishments, and it's amazing what it adds. And then when you think he's going to finish with the I knows, he comes back in with that "leave the young thing alone." Or whatever the line is, like just the change ups that he's got going through this section are extraordinary.
Again, it's like a remix. He's taken the best, well, not the best. He's taken an interesting roadmap and kind of pieced it together. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it really, really is. And again, you get the sense it's not quite so much in the vocal tone now, but in the way, the melody he chooses for his riffs, this cry comes back out again. Like it's almost becoming pleading at this point, and I love that too.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I know, I know, oh, you ought to leave a young thing alone, but ain't no sunshine when she...
That wet right there, the harmony he puts on it is so kind of like just.
I was going, not again, not speaking to emotion, but strictly from a chord point of view. It's interesting. I found this section. I needed to spend a lot of time analyzing just these chords, and all it is just different inversions of the same chord in the background vocals, but it makes it sound like it's moving, but it's all just an A minor chord. I think it's A minor. I didn't write down the exact chord, but it's all just different inversions of the same chord. It must be,
A minor would make sense.
Yeah, well, we're leading into A minor, so I was just thinking maybe it's on the 5 by now. Anyway, regardless of what the chords names are, it's just different inversions of the chord, which makes it sound like it's moving, even though it's not really.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is magic.
Oh, you wanna leave a young thing alone, but ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
And now we've got some strings. We've got
Yes.
some bowed strings, as well as there's some pizzicato notes in there. And this is just even more heartbreaking. Like the way he's constructed this song, it's just leading more and more to the emotion. The fact that there's now strings, I'm like, oh, you poor guy. I felt so bad for him by this point.
Absolutely, it does. And then we come back to the chair. We go from this kind of frazzled mindset back to this very lonely mindset for a second, except we're much closer up to him now.
Like, I almost wonder if the roaming around the kitchen Geoff that we just saw, if this Geoff was remembering that he had done that previously, like maybe he has now come to this spot and he's just like trying to piece himself back together, and that was a flashback. It's like, yeah, and then I was like so distraught, I was wandering around the kitchen. It almost seems like a flashback, and I love that. I actually wrote down, I don't know, must have been in a mood when I analyzed this song, because I wrote down the words here. It's like a kaleidoscope of misery. And I guess just
I can see it.
Strings coming in, him roaming around the kitchen, the clock, like all the elements that we've had here, he's just painted for me such a picture. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yes, I wholeheartedly agree. That makes complete sense to me. And then it makes sense that we come back to him in the chair. That's yes, totally.
She's gone. Only darkness every day. Whoa.
I love the difference between the height of the solo and the depth of the harmony at this point in time. It's setting him more alone. Yeah, it's such a great choice at that point, and he does have such a natural kind of cry in his upper register that he can access so easily, and there's just a hint of that coming in.
Yeah, he goes up to a D5 with that little cry there, and it's just nice. It's like he's pining.
So he's got a 4.5 octave range in this, basically, because he goes down to A1, right?
Of course he does.
Of course he does. That makes total sense. And it's, we know he's perfectly capable of that, but he's using it here in a way that isn't showing off. It is entirely playing, like, is he of course he's showing off a little bit. He's demonstrating his entire...
He's on YouTube. He has to show off. Yeah.
Exactly. But it doesn't feel like where something like the massive... like 3-octave slide descent in Little Mermaid is clearly put in there to be kind of a show moment.
Right.
I don't think I felt a show moment in this yet.
There's that 1 octave drop when he was in the kitchen earlier. He drops down to an A1. I think that was put in there a little bit for effect.
Right, but I think the one thing I would say, and yes, I think you're right, but also he's down there for a split second. It's not like he's doing one of these, I'm going to drop down there and this note is going to be a pedal for the next 10 seconds under everything that goes on. Yeah, it's there, but it's not indulgently so.
Mm-hmm. No, everything serves a purpose.
Yeah. And I don't think being indulgent in the songs that he does is in it. There's, that's part of what he does, and that's fine. But this feels less so than most. Maybe let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I think it's really impressive how far he's traveled in his registers without that ever really kicking in and making me go, there's the glory note, for want of a better phrase, which I think is really, really impressive.
No sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home.
That chord right there.
Okay, I have to talk to you about this chord right there, and where did it come from?
Please do, because what? That is not in the original, I can tell you that.
This is the only major chord in the entire song. And
oh God, you're right, it is.
Yes, it's a D major chord. And to me, again, I'm playing into this narrative that I've created, and it could be that he's had a different idea in mind. But to me, it's a major chord. And major, normally in music, you've got minor for stuff that is scary or sad or angry. Major is usually more happy and buoyant. And this major chord, it's sort of like, oh, is she there? Oh, maybe not. And
I like it.
So the fact that he's got this major chord on the word home, he actually did say once, when a question was asked about this, is he wanted that major chord on the word home to make it seem more homey. So,
and that's actually the point I was going to make. Is it's the perfect word to have that chord land on. But it's so, and now I understand. I had not even clocked that we didn't have a major chord up to this point.
Yeah,
but that's why it is so unexpected.
And you won't have another one. It's the only one.
That is brilliant.
It's so tasty. So tasty.
Go back and listen to that with this thought in mind now. Be right back. Oh, and he doesn't even settle. Oh, what is it? Oh, and it's when he drops down we settle onto that chord. It's not even there from. It's an insecure landing. It's not dum da 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 home.
Right.
We're on the notes for the whole thing. It kind of falls onto it a little bit. And I love that we come onto that from that. Right there, gone. That slide up into a really unfinished. Like that sounds like it's going away from a resolution, even though we're coming to a partial resolution in a second with this major chord. It feels like we're moving away from one for a second, and it makes everything feel more uncertain because of that slide up.
And that slide up,
tumble.
Yes, yeah, and that slide up on the word gone. Usually before we've gone down on the word gone.
Yeah,
ain't no sunshine. I'm not in good voice, so I was going to sing it, and then I decided to save you all from that. But if you go back and listen, every other gone goes down, and this one goes up, and it's, again, sort of propelling it toward the end of the song, even though it's still sad, but it's creating more of an excitement.
Yeah, and it's these endless small evolutions throughout this entire thing. It's just, one more time on that, and on we go. Oh! And this house just ain't no home. It's almost exclusively vocals too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there might be one string line that hangs on underneath on the not sure, maybe on the tonic of that chord, but it almost completely drops out to vocals for 1 second. The melancholy of the strings just disappears as well. Oh, that's Geoff. Just ain't no home.
So what we heard just there was a repeat of Any Time. And you were saying before how Hugh Jackman in Oklahoma don't repeat the same phrase unless you're going to say it differently. And here he's put an interesting effect on his voice on the repeat. It almost sounds like a memory if you hear him. We'll play it again. When he sings it and then you hear the repeat, it's kind of got a robotic, almost inhuman sound to it. It's kind of like how you remember something. It's kind of vague. It's in there, but it's not an exact replica.
Yeah, and it's not even like he's just done it through making it quieter and more in the background. The change in the tonal anytime.
Yeah, it's like weird.
It's very it's all in the throat kind of sounding. That's it's obviously. I'm assuming he may have re-recorded it and done it a different way, but it could also be post-production.
That one was definitely post-production, or not post-production, but there's There's an effect on it.
But he could. What I'm saying is, he could have taken an
Oh,
anytime already in the song and
right.
repeated it and changed it, or he
Yeah.
could have done an anytime and
Yeah.
taken it from that. But that it's a yawn sound almost, like that really open type of. It's
Hmm.
a totally different resonance from everything else we hear in the song, which again gives it that kind of this. There's an otherness to it that the rest of what he's doing here doesn't have, and
Hmm.
yeah, that memory concept, I love it, 100%. And I love that slide down to the tonic there as well. Such an unexpected resolution almost. Just
Hmm.
being where it's coming, it's a finish, but it's almost not and then he wanders out of frame and it's like, oh, it is a finish. And then we
And
go back to this chorus.
and before we go on, this
Mm.
is we're ramping up to the end of the song here. Now all of the sound elements have come back in. So listen to see if you can hear the clock, the static, the strings, the almost Muse-esque, Muse the band, the sort of distortion quality of that bass that you're talking
Yes,
about. All these elements
absolutely.
now have come back in, and now I'm wondering, is he recovering, or is it getting worse? It's just an interesting
Mm.
build up to the end, but now we've got all these really interesting elements all back in here.
Good question. I like that. Let's listen to this.
There's a wah wah.
She goes away.
Oh, what was that? They know. They know, son. That's an interesting thing for the chorus to do, because that's something we haven't heard before.
It might just be because it's in a lower register. I think that's how he's kind of introduced it when he's up a bit. I could be wrong on
Is it?
that. I'm not sure.
It sounds different, but it might just be because we're hearing it in a different, it's
Octave.
further back, it's more kind of in the background, it's
Hmm.
lower, all that sort of thing. But that day, no, it's almost there's almost something slightly percussive about that entry, which I feel like I haven't heard before. But as you say, it may just be because of its positioning. But this
Hmm.
whole section, you're right, everything's back in there. You can hear the clock, all that sort of thing. It's given it a fullness we've never had in the song.
Hmm.
This is the most complete it has sounded at any point. And we still have that come back again. So we have that little sense of it's still a little broken up, but the general sound that we have here, the frequency range that the song is covering, is now wider than it has been.
Yeah.
This is great. One more time on that.
She goes away.
It's interesting because it feels in so many ways he's gone back to how it was being performed at the beginning,
Yeah.
but this lends to both your "it's getting worse" and "it's getting better" theories, because it's where it was at the beginning, but so much more than that. It's so evolved from where it was at the beginning, and we don't quite know where it's gone. He's still facing away from the window, but interestingly, in this shot, as we arc around him, we get this other light that he could see out of the corner of his eye coming in on the
Right.
side of the screen.
Yeah.
So there's interesting kind of intimation of what could maybe be going on, but not entirely. There's not enough to
Right.
come up with anything conclusive, I don't think.
Yeah. We're in the final seconds of the song here. Listen to how the song actually ends. We've got all the sound effects coming in, but nothing cuts off at the same time. There's no like hard break to the song. You got this one extending out, and then you've got this one extending out. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, the last note of the song is actually what key are we in? A, E. It might be the fifth of the chord of this minor chord, which feels unfinished and unresolved, just like this man's story. Did she come back? I don't know. So it's an interesting way to end the song. It's all still disjointed, unfinished, uncertain.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so it's on the fade out after everybody's
Right.
done singing. right to the end. I found that really interesting.
Okay. I missed that. That's really cool. Oh, also, it's worth noting how, compared to the beginning, whereas now either it's everything's moving more. Another evolution from the beginning. Oh, that hold is so long.
Okay,
You're
I was
right.
wrong.
So it's tonic.
That was a tonic. There must
quite.
have been it must have been another song where he holds out the fifth, but everything.
But the fifth was there.
Yes,
it was one of the last. It was the more prominent final note because here. So here we have the tonic and the fifth come in. There, the fifth is. And it does fade out, but we have the static and that low bass just ending off that final note. But I feel like the fifth is the more prominent final note, even though we do have that bass kind of almost for effect carrying on a little bit more. But I also just love, I want to one more time back on that, I love how long this ending takes to complete from the settle to the first chord to the point where that bass cuts off. I'm going to stop it there for 1 second. There's one more thing I want to mention. The tick of the clock, if I'm not mistaken, he is slowing down. He just begins. There's 5 ticks of the clock once he settles onto that final note. And I think, I was processing it there while I wasn't listening properly. I think it's tick, 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 tick. But the pace of the song is beat, 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 beat. I think the clock finishes on the final note, but kind of only just, because it's slowing down where the clock doesn't, I think. Let me hear if that was an optical illusion or an aural illusion.
I'm not good at polyrhythms, so I can't help you on that one very well. I would have to sit with that for a bit.
Yeah, I think it does. It's the last tick for sure, maybe the second last tick as well, are just off beat. You can hear the clock hit the final beat just before Geoff resolves onto it. And I love that because, again, slight offset creates a sense of discordance.
Yes.
Rhythmic discordance in this case. Yeah. But I love that that's in there. It's kind of, you know what it gives me the vibes of is that... the scene at the end, and this serves into the uncertainty, the scene at the end of Inception, where he spins the top.
Oh, but you never see if it stops.
Yes. And it wobbles, and that's all you see. It's exactly, that's the feeling I'm getting right now, of that tick being off beat, even though technically it's in tempo. Because Geoff is not in tempo. I love that uncertainty that builds in me. That's extraordinary.
Yeah,
also,
pretty cool.
In general, people who make videos with songs, look at how long we sit on this final shot, please, and this final note. One more time on this. There's like 3 seconds of him not singing still on screen, and then 2 seconds of black while the note fades out. And then we move on to the credits. Thank you for ending a song properly.
Gives it room to, not room to breathe, but is that what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Yeah, room to breathe, room to settle as well. And I think there's so many people who would get to the point where it cuts out and then just cut to, hey, thanks for doing, watching my video. And Geoff is really, really good at not doing that.
Yes.
But this is an exaggerated example, and it still works so well. I love it. Songs need room to finish. Sorry, it gets my goat.
I know it does.
But yikes, that was outrageously good.
I told you. I was so excited to do this one because not only because I love it so much, and I'd done the analysis way back when it first came out, but I knew, knowing a little bit about you, I knew that it would strike a chord with you as well. And I always really enjoy discussing these songs with you because you get me and I get you, and you
100%.
you introduce things that I'd never heard of before. Like I didn't hear that ticking clock kind of juxtaposition at the end, and I think I bring to the table a few things that maybe you hadn't heard. Probably mostly
Yep.
because it's only your second time listening to it, but I just knew
But
this
I've
one was going
listened
to be a
back
winner.
to, yeah, I've listened back to stuff that we've done before,
Hmm.
and I still can think to myself, Angie made me hear that. Like, I do think there
Oh,
are things that you bring out that I don't pick up on as clearly because our minds work differently.
yeah,
Our approach to music is different. You hear chords differently to the way I hear. We're hearing the same chord, but the way our brains then pick that apart is not the same. And so there's naturally going to be, it's perspective.
yes,
It's perspective and musical education and training and all that sort of stuff. You sing with both a close harmony chorus and now a ladies barbershop group. And so you understand that concept of chords. I love barbershop music, but I can't break it down the way that you do.
hmm,
And I don't have that appreciation that I think barbershop groups need to have of you actually want to detune a few cents from where your brain thinks you want to go
yeah,
because you will fill out the sound more. I know the logic of that because I've seen people talk about it. I think Tim Warwick was one of them, actually. I've seen
yeah.
people talk about it. And
The
I think you've
Pythagorean
talked about
tuning,
it
yeah.
yeah. Whereas to me, it's just like this is an E in the middle of a
Oh,
chord
yeah. That's like saying
rather
that's
than,
white
yeah,
paint or black
exactly.
paint. Yeah, there's so many different shades.
For those who don't know what I'm now rambling about, cents in music refer to the gaps between. So if you have an E and an E flat, you have, is it 50 cents or 100 cents
That's a good
between
question.
them?
I want
And
to
it's
say
how
50.
detuned. So, right. So it's right. 100 is a full tone and a 50 is a semitone. That sounds right. But however many it is, that's how detuned a note is. So if a note is slightly sharp on your piano, it might be 13 cents sharp, and a tuner will come and bring it back down again. Whereas in barbershop, you might actually want to be 7 cents sharp because it makes the chord richer in the scope of four voices because that's what you're playing with, and it sounds counterintuitive, but that's actually how you make these chords that really you
Ring.
hear them and you just go ah,
That's
and
the
it's entirely because
yeah.
of that perfection.
Yeah, that's the barbershop ring that we're after. But that's a whole other video, David. I
It
could talk
is.
for another hour on that. So
Well, quite. I just don't like bringing up a concept in these videos, and there's people who watch this who don't have a clue what I'm saying, and I
yeah,
like to try and provide what context I'm able to. So,
I'll
yes, we
just
could
add
totally.
though,
Yeah,
sometimes cents is referred to as onion skins of a note. So if you picture a note and then you
right.
picture onion skins, how thin that is, like 3 or 5 onion skins, it doesn't make a huge difference, except yes, it does, because eventually it does start to add up. So
I think that's true. If you play a note that's 2 or 3 cents out of tune to somebody, most
you,
people won't
you
even know
wouldn't
there's
notice.
anything
No,
wrong.
no.
Um, the piano tuner, on the other hand, who are magicians, and I'm fairly certain are the closest you can get to being an actual wizard in this world. Maybe shy of being a conductor. Getting to wave a stick and making music happen is kind of magic in my view. But piano tuners, they have an ability to hear absolutely minute differences, and it blows my mind. But that's a whole other discussion as well. We will not have that here.
Yes.
What I will say, however, is thank you so much, Angie, for coming on and talking to me once again and joining me for this analysis. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, it's always such a pleasure to be here because I, as you know, love to ramble about chords and music and all the things. So thank you so much for allowing me a platform in which to do so.
Anytime. Anytime. We ramble with articulation here. That's what we do. I still thank Mickey for introducing me to that concept. That's just hilarious. She was like, this is what you do. And I was like, I'm taking that. Anyway, I will say farewell for now, but thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, I will go on to my outro, but thank you once again. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
So there we have it. Geoff Castellucci's Ain't No Sunshine. Absolutely magical. I realized I never actually looked at any of the information he provided in the description. As usual, everything done by Geoff. Not literally, but almost. Production manager and creative direction by Kathy. Steadicam work and additional direction by Lane and Tony of Patty Cake Productions. Mixed, of course, by Ed. Filmed at Casa Feliz in Winter Park, Florida. I did just want to mention that because it's such a beautiful house. You can look it up at Casa Feliz Venue. That's Feliz. CasaFelizVenue.com. And I think that's he says Ain't No Sunshine was one of Wither's 3 gold records in the US, correct? And he says, I know 26 times in the original version. I say it a few times more than that for good measure and because it's just good, clean fun. Correct. Yeah, and that was that. Thank you so much for joining myself and Angie. It's always such a pleasure to have her talking to me about this because I feel like there's so much more depth gone into in these songs. And I really, really enjoy having her on the channel, so that was great. Sorry, momentary cut there. I just knocked something off my desk. But please check her out at confessionsofaChordJunkie.com. I will put a card up here somewhere. And she writes about Geoff songs as well as some others and goes into some great detail and provides chord examples to talk about to demonstrate what she's talking about and things like that, and it's a really good read. But thank you for joining me as well. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I was able to bring something to you through this video, be it Geoff himself. Go check him out if not. Oh, and I always forget to say this, the description has a link to the original of this. Please listen to it. Hopefully you did that before you came here. Or to the song, whatever it happens to be, or even if you knew the song, I hope Angie or I, or both, brought you some new perspective on it, because that's what we're here to do, and that makes us both very happy if we can. Please do like the video, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and if you would care to, you can donate to support the channel at buymeacoffee.com/DavidKReacts, at patreon.com/DavidKReacts, or by leaving a super thanks here on YouTube. And the names of my current patrons, thank you to all of you, have been on the screen for the last few seconds. That's it for now. I'm not sure exactly when this video is going to have gone out, because I recorded it slightly out of order in my rotation. It might be very rapidly after I have done so. This is the beginning of July, or it might be a little bit later, but it won't be long from now. So I will say I hope your summer is treating you well, or I guess your winter if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, midnight. I don't know. This was a long video. What can I try? Let's say 7:14 p.m. If you're in AST, you may have just finished watching if you started on time. I don't know how long this video is going to be. But thank you again. I really appreciate you being here and sharing this with me. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Do you know how weird it is to sit here not being able to hear the song, but hearing you occasionally saying, "Oh, Geoff"?